Hello, my name is Caitlin Beisch, and I'm Content and Student Engagement Manager at BMES. Thank you for joining today's webinar from Submission to Success, CDR Insights from Student Chapter Award winners. Today, you'll hear from the 2025 Student Chapter Award winners as they share best practices, lessons learned, and practical tips from their CDR submission processes to help your chapter prepare strong, competitive reports for 2026. We're thrilled to have an incredible lineup of live and pre-recorded speakers today. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Christopher Tan from UC Irvine and the Outstanding Achievement Award winner.
Thank you, Caitlin. Let me get my screen shared. All right, does that look good? Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Christopher Tan. A lot of people usually call me Chris. I'm the president of the chapter here at the University of California, Irvine. And to get to three main points I want to share with you all. First, documentation. Second, continuity. And then three, just general tips about your CDR. So first, what do I mean by documentation? All of our chapter is run around our event documents. And what is an event document? It is a central place where we plan the entirety of our event and also do reflections on it and write down our abstracts for our CDR. So going into the three sections, first, organization. It's incredibly important to plan all your events in advance, go all the way down from your budgets, all the supplies you use, your agendas throughout the event, and that allows you to have a lot of structure and run really high quality events. Also, what I think is the most important part is reflection. This is something that actually drives a lot of energy into your organization, encouraging each of your board members after every single event within the next few days, reflect on your event and see what went really amazing, what really went well, and how you made an impact on your community. That gives a lot of energy and motivation to continue on making awesome events. And it also, as you reflect, think about the pros, think about the cons, how you can improve for future generations as well, and write that down on a document and pass it on to the next generation. And that is a big reason of why the BMES chapter at UCI is so successful. We've been around for 22 years. And so sometimes we're digging all the way back to master docs as much as 6 years old, seeing how past chapters of us have run events and what they've done and what we can continue to improve on. Alongside that, event documents are incredibly helpful for compiling your CDR. It's a continuous effort throughout the entirety of the year, so you're not scrambling to remember your first event of the year, how many people were attending, what were the outcomes. Instead, you write that down right after the event, and it's really easy and like a smooth process at the end of the year to just copy and paste a lot of these different abstracts into your CDR. So this is a lot of text. This is just an example of one of the abstracts that we write after each of our events in the next few days on just reflecting what we accomplished in our events. Just to highlight a few different things, it's really important to think about, like, what did you consider an event? What did you want to prioritize? And so, for example, this is in our project sector. We want to make sure it's accessible to all different types of backgrounds and that we're reaching the broader engineering community. So we did some fee waivers and we did some other planning, and we wanted to include that in our abstract as well. Alongside that, just talking about how many people came, also just seeing like what skills did people gain, or even if it's as simple as industry connections, that's something that you really should write down right after your event and just see the impact that you're making on your community. Also, just to go back on the planning side, we have a checklist that we complete for every single event that keeps our things running smoothly. So our venues, our budgets, etc., making sure that you stay on top of your timelines allows you to have good events to write about in your CDR. Moving on to legacy. So here's a little fun meme from Avatar. This is something, as I mentioned earlier, we have 22 years of previous chapters trying out different things, learning and writing down master docs and passing it on to us. And so I think one of the most important things is communicating, passing it on to the next generation. Make a club email. There's been so many times we've looked back and saw like what industry correspondents did we reach out to, what connections in industry actually responded back to us, how can we continue engaging them in our community, especially if they've seen our events in the past and really liked it, they're a lot more likely to come back. And so make a club email, keep on passing that on to future presidents, and that is really helpful for knowing who in your local area would be willing to engage with their club. Alongside that, of course, maintain your network of alumni and professional contacts. We have a spreadsheet of all the different people who attend our events, and also telling your alumni to continue to stay engaged. Their perspectives as they go on to become the next generation of healthcare leaders is invaluable for guiding the next generation of students. So yes, and then for the CDR, just some tips. First, this is probably already on your mind, but start early for us because we do our event documents. We start on day one of the year, already starting on our abstracts that will go into our CDR. And so it's really important to make it a continuous effort to delegate it out and stay on top of it. That way you aren't scrambling at the end of the year trying to remember, was it 35 or 40 people that attend this event? You just have it written down and it's nice and easy. Second thing is I really encourage all my board members to think like a judge. And so, yes, there is a million different things that go into planning an event. It's really important to consider if you're someone who has never seen this event before, what are the things you really want to know? What impact did you make on your community? What connections? And also what like important planning things that are kind of cool about your event? Oh, did you make something new, like a new keychain, or that's something that other chapters could replicate? So think like a judge, think how you can impact your community. And that's really important when you're writing your CDR at every step. And then, oh, I got a little bit messed up, but my secret sauce for the success at BMES at UCI, of course, it's the people. So first, I want to shout out my vice president and also my treasurer, Lucas and Sumra, but also the entirety of board, just making sure that you have a very dynamic, supportive community within your board, showing that if anything goes wrong, that the president is there to support, the execs are willing to jump in, and actually every single person on this board would be willing to help out each other. And so maintaining that energy, maintaining that tone is incredibly helpful, especially when you're doing such a large document. Our CDR is 116 pages. Doesn't need to be that long. You can definitely condense it down, but it still is incredibly helpful to have such an engaged team all focused and working together. So yeah, that's all from me. Here's my LinkedIn if you want to connect or ask any other questions. And then the BMES at UCI CDR is attached to a few different BMES websites and is also within the guidelines as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Christopher. That was great. Next, we have a presentation, pre-recorded presentation from Franklin High School for any of our high school chapters that have joined us. So I will go ahead and hit play.
Hey, Caitlin, I'm not sure if the audio is coming through.
Oh, thank you. I just saw, um, let's see. You hear it now?
Still no.
Muted. I'll go ahead and troubleshoot that. So let's go ahead and just kick it over to our up and coming new student chapter awardee. Jacob, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, and I will check out Franklin High School's
Okay, sounds good.
situation.
Thank you, Caitlin. Okay. Um, okay, there we go. So, hello everyone. My name is Jacob Adas, and I am the current president for the Biomedical Engineering Society chapter here at the University of Texas at San Antonio. And so we were awarded the new up and coming student chapter award, but we have been active independently. This year has been our first year as an official member of the BMES community. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us through our email. But what our chapter is focused on is maintaining being the primary community for BMEs at our university. And so that relates to a lot of how we plan a lot of our events and how that relates into the CDR. Ultimately, what we try to focus on each year is in enhancing each of these goals, in which our main ones are promoting education and professional development and integrating the perspectives of the local BME community throughout San Antonio. And so that relates a lot to what we do regarding planning, and it relates to how we document for the CDR. And so for our general overview of advice that we would give, mainly the main thing that we would like to say is that you should always focus on writing and revising the CDR throughout the year. We treat it as a master document for us to not only reflect on how our events do and potential improvements we can make, but it's also good for us to just make sure that we're documenting properly regarding the attendance and the overall impact of how each event works. So that way, in upcoming years, whenever we have transitions with a new board of officers, we're able to have a long discussion regarding, okay, how can we make events that improve upon old ones, or maybe add new events that are missing a gap that we could be addressing. We also tend to focus on quality over quantity. What we try to do is make sure that the events that we do have is impactful. And so what we usually do is we set a set of key initiatives each year that we try to really plan for, and then a set of smaller events throughout the year that we can be more flexible and usually have lower attendance or lower outreach. We also make sure to document and record everything, and we have dedicated officers that focus solely on recording attendance and taking photos and making sure that all of our documents are in order. So it's usually our secretary. And planning and organization is crucial, as a lot of the impact of your events depends on the adequate time you give for advertisement and fundraising. And so for our approach, what we tend to focus on is we set a master document at the beginning of each year, which the president is in charge of writing with assistance from the board. Typically, after we have biweekly officer meetings, we'll briefly go over this document. And then if we've had a recent event, the president will have added to it. And then other officers will pitch in and give their comments on things that, say, for example, one officer wasn't there in attendance for the event, another officer typically was. So that way we can make sure to write information properly. We also make sure that we keep this master document in a shared drive. So we use Google Drive. And then we do event brainstorming at the start of each semester to establish new goals and review our progress. Something that we would advise newer chapters to keep in mind is that as you work on the CDR, keep in mind that some events or initiatives you may plan can fall under multiple categories. And so, for example, we had a few activities that could fall under societal impact or mentoring that we did not express through the CDR. And so that is something that I would recommend for any new up and coming chapters to focus on, is making sure that you realize that a lot of these events can be interdisciplinary, and you want to make sure that comes through your CDR. And so for our key initiatives, this is usually what we plan around, is we try to focus on some larger events. Specifically, we focus on one main key event in fall, which typically is the BMS conference, where we always send a few officers or a few members to present, as well as in spring, where we set our BMES Research Symposium, which is a department-wide initiative that we've been working on in order to provide students the opportunity to present and research, but also an opportunity to invite industry folks to come and interact with our students. And during the summer, we also have our third key initiative, which is our BME Summer Camp. And typically throughout the year, we have smaller industry tours and workshops that we plan around. And so typically, we try to make sure that we maintain attendance for all of these events and making sure that you take photos, because in the end, when you're writing your CDR, photos, I believe, is the best way to convey what the experience was like and how it impacted your members. And so we have photos that we document for every single event that we put inside the CDR as we write the abstracts for each event. And so it's usually a lot better to kind of see how it's actually engaging with the community. And that is something that I like to emphasize. And so for overall advice, you want to make sure that you're also keeping up with the membership roster and your event stats regularly. Maintaining connections with your alumni is beneficial, especially as your chapter begins to grow and you begin to have a larger list of contacts ranging from past alumni, current students, or industry contacts that you build up as your organization grows. So it's really good to make sure that you have a master document to organize all this. And regarding the actual writing of the CDR, you always want to make sure to emphasize the overall impact and what you're going to do in the future to improve upon it. So we always go with at least one paragraph where we try to define and describe what it was we did, why we did it, and then emphasizing how it benefited our students through quantitative and qualitative aspects such as attendance, specific benefits or testimony or photos. And something that's really crucial is establishing a well-defined transition pipeline. Typically, we have one transition meeting each year where previous officers meet with new officers. And through this, they're able to give advice and guidance and also explain to them on how to prepare for the role. And so this is an example from our CDR this year, in which You can see here that we've started off with, as an example, one of our events was we participated in an Engineering Week organization fair, connecting with local high schoolers. And through this, we explained what it was and why we did it, which was to showcase our initiatives and raise funds, but also how we impacted the community. It gave our members the chance to engage with local high schoolers, but also gave the local high schoolers to learn more about BME. And we also try to keep track of all these attendance numbers, because as you go on through each year, knowing how or certain events may grow is something that's really crucial. But overall, if you have any questions or additional insights that you'd like to learn from us, you can feel free to reach out to us through our email. And I'll pass it back to Caitlin.
Thank you, Jacob. We're gonna try and give this another shot and see, make sure. Screen.
Hello, my name is Isabella DiAugustine, and I'm the founder and president of the Franklin High School BMES chapter, winner of the Outstanding High School Students Chapter Award this past year. I'm so excited to be able to represent Franklin High School and have the opportunity to discuss some of the accomplishments and some of the advice that we've secured over the last year. As a brief introduction to myself and the club, I'm Franklin's chapter president and founder, and I'm incredibly passionate about biomed engineering and biotech and pour this into the club. So let's dive into our chapter. I founded the club in 2024, and from 2024 to 2025, we hosted 6 hands-on labs, 3 virtual meetings with 2 universities and 1 professor, and research poster and competition training boot camps. On the community-based side of our club, we dove into 2 major mentoring projects, 2 major donation drives, and 1 major outreach program. But before we get into specifics, I want to talk about the 4 major pillars we established for our club really early on in its infancy. And I think this was so important for us because we wanted to establish a baseline that we could relate everything back to. And for us, those 4 pillars were hands-on research, college readiness, professional development, and community outreach and service. We knew that these were the subjects that we truly wanted to prioritize, and with every action, meeting, outreach event that we took and participated in the club, we wanted to really ensure that they tied back to at least one of these principles. So for hands-on research, we really prioritize creating a lab-like experience without really any of the major funding or resources that non-high school institutions like universities might have. I really believe that this is one of the aspects that made our CDR stand out, being the creativity and ingenuity that we had to pour into these labs, even though they were a little bit unorthodox due to not having as many resources. But that's really what made them unique for us. One of the labs that certainly stood out to me the most was our pacemaker simulation lab, where I completely designed a homemade DIY recipe for electrically conductive gelatin hearts, and I also made metal probes to stick into the hearts. And through this project, students could see what a simulation of electricity flowing through the heart looked like, and that mimicked what would happen when a pacemaker was connected to the heart itself. This leads me to my first major piece of advice, which is to be truly creative with your projects and operations. For me, biomedical engineering is a field that, unlike a lot of other fields, requires you to employ completely novel approaches to problems. So why not mirror this in your approach to lab demonstrations, hands-on programs, and really anything else that you might find yourself getting into while running a BMES chapter. For college readiness, we focused on meetings with actual universities. We partnered with the BMES clubs at both UCLA and UC San Diego, focusing on an interactive discussion of the work that they perform, as well as the biomedical programs at each university. I feel like this was really important, not only for our CDR standout, but as a high school chapter for our members and students to really engage with what a biomedical engineering degree might look like at a university. A lot of our members are upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors that are trying to find their footing as they venture into the college application process and college itself. Having these conversations really gave great insight as to what biomedical engineering really looks like as a college major and gave them information about some of the schools that they were interested in applying to. So something I really advise when planning goals or collaborative projects is just sitting down and thinking about what your member base really needs. And for us, as a high school club, a lot of that is the introductory exposure and the inclusive work that gets people into the field, like these meetings. Professional development was another one of our major focuses, as we wanted our members to have well-rounded access to the scientific community and hopefully a leg up in applying to competitions and conducting research both in high school and in their future university careers. We collaborated with UCSF Professor Dr. Nadav, who introduced us to his research in MPRAs, And we also hosted research paper and competition boot camps, teaching students how to read and write research papers, as well as how to best effectively compete in a lot of competitions. I feel like this was another successful leg of our operation that stood out on our development report, as we had a lot of teams competing in competitions like Genes in Space, BioHSC, and TBC. And just the last year alone, 4 students placed in UC Davis's TBC competition. Our club has continually sought ways to bridge the gap between biomedical engineering and community service. There are our most significant outreach initiatives were our school-wide donation drive, the Parkinson's Cards Project, and our elementary school outreach program teaching germ education. We wanted to reflect a commitment to patient advocacy, health education, and foster a compassionate approach to science and engineering, which I truly believe should be a major focus of any BMES chapter. We certainly learned a lot of non-biomed-based lessons along the way, which I'd like to share as logistic and operational advice. My first piece of advice is to truly stay organized. We learned to rely upon Google Drive folders and Google Sheets to track everything in our club. And delegation also became super vital so that none of our officers became overwhelmed. But with delegation also came a need for complete communication and efficient communication. So establishing points of reference was critical. For example, our project manager 1 and project manager 2 would keep in touch with one another, and their point of contact was our secretary, who was also very skilled in the area and could communicate with the historian, the vice president, and our co-presidents. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about our chapter and CDR process through the Franklin High School lens. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our club or me directly if you have any more questions or comments. Thank you so much.
And next, we will actually be watching another pre-recorded presentation from Arizona State. So I will...
Hi, we're the BMES chapter at Arizona State University. We were awarded the Outstanding Chapter Industry Program Award in the 2024-2025 academic year, so we are incredibly grateful for the opportunity to share more about our chapter and the chapter development process that we implement. The mission of our chapter is to foster an inclusive and welcoming community for anyone interested in biomedical engineering at ASU. We host workshops and events that foster networking and professional development for all our student members. My name is Aditi Rao. I'm a senior in BME and I'm the chapter president.
Hi, my name is Chia Goyal and I'm a junior in BME. I'm the chapter treasurer.
We are an officer board of 14 officers comprising of undergraduates, graduates, and online students, with a current student membership of about 80 students. The preparation for our chapter development report begins at the start of the academic year in August, wherein we inform our event planners and collaborators of the significance of the report and the information they must gather throughout the year. We include statistics about membership, event attendance, organization growth, photos from events, documentation examples, and overall budget. In the spring semester, we enforce an internal deadline of a month prior to the report submission to BMES National and provide sufficient time for our officers to complete their assigned sections and ask us questions. Prior to the submission, we ensure proper formatting of the report and meet with our faculty advisors to gain their expertise on the report.
These are some key initiatives that led us to fostering strong relationships with industry partners. First, we build strong relationships with medtech companies who in turn sponsor us. This brings support through speaker events, networking opportunities, and professional development of our students. Second, we started the Industry Relations Committee to manage the said relationships. This committee is student-led and hosts events with industry officials. They also have a newsletter through which they keep members informed about upcoming events, company highlights, and internship or job opportunities. Overall, this committee highlights how we bridge gaps between student body and industry. Third, the mentorship program currently consists of 8 mentors and 77 mentees. The goal is to support lowerclassmen and new members by pairing them with more experienced students in the major. They host both structured as well as one-on-one mentoring events. Running these programs, some of the key lessons we learned were as follows. Membership engagement is highest when events are clearly tailored to student interests. Incentives and recognition make a big difference. Things like giveaways or free food is always exciting. Planning events ahead of time allows for smoother execution, but being flexible is just as important because students' needs change throughout the semester. Our advice would be leveraging local landscape. For example, our chapter, Tempe, has a growing industry presence. Building long-lasting relationships with medtech companies is crucial. Another key strategy is working closely with alumni. Connecting with ASU and BME alumni has been helpful for sponsorships, guest speakers, and collaborative events. Finally, empowering student leadership is essential. Providing certifications, officer benefits, and creating an inclusive and welcoming environment helps retain motivated leaders. To answer why our chapter won the Outstanding Chapter Award, I would say one key factor was our strong industry connections across the valley, which allowed us to host meaningful professional development events. We held monthly general body meetings that featured one or more industry partner speakers, giving students consistent exposure to professionals in the field. We also organized industry tours such as visits to BD, which gave students first-hand insight into real-world biomedical engineering environments. In addition, our chapter was supported by industry sponsors, and we actively tracked GBM attendance and industry engagement. Thank you for your time. We'd love to share more about our chapter and gain your insights. You can contact us on our email, LinkedIn, or Instagram.
And now I will pass it over to our Societal Impact awardee from UCLA, Wesley.
All right, hello. I'm Wesley. I'm the president of BMES at UCLA, and today we're here to share a little bit about what our chapter has been up to. So as an overview, BMES at UCLA, we're really one of those main organizations on campus for any student that's interested in the field of bioengineering and kind of translational biomedical research. But, besides just like the technical side of it, we really provide a variety of resources in terms of academic assistance, hands-on projects, a lot of fun social events, mentorships, and also post-grad life planning. And so, we really work closely with undergraduate students, graduate students, professors, faculties in our department, and, ultimately, I think our goal is to really create a community for people that are all driven by this same underlying passion. And so first I wanted to start with kind of an overview of this is how our board is broken down. And I want to start here to kind of show that, kind of like some of the other chapters, we've been around for a long time. So we've really expanded over the years. And now, our board consists of almost, I think, 45 people. And so, we've got a lot of different events going on. So there's really a lot of attention and care that has to go into making sure that, we're able to do this effectively, delegate effectively, and, really handle all these events throughout the year. And so in terms of our chapter development report process, we've really distilled it down to kind of three main components that help everything go really smoothly each year. And it all really comes down to documentation. And so our system is actually pretty simple. So we have a spreadsheet here you see on the left. And, for every single event we have, we basically kind of distill down the basic information, like the dates, the event times, some basic information about, the impact and what the event was, and then some very important things about, attendance and also costs. And so that is really kind of a high level overview of what we do each year. And then, this is really something that really plugs really nicely into the CDR because a lot of this information is, very directly relevant to what we would submit in our report. Next, we have this thing we call the monkey books. I'm not actually sure why we call it that. It's just what we've always called at BMES at UCLA. But basically, there's like a little more extensive event documentation. So after each event or during the planning of each event, we kind of include a lot of those technical details as well as, event planning notes, maybe some lessons we learned. And this all goes in our Google Drive, which, year after year, as we plan the events again, we can kind of refer back to previous years to really see, what went well, what didn't go well, really iterate and improve year after year. And finally, I think this is one that sometimes can be forgotten, but taking photos and videos and getting really good documentation in terms of the media is also really important. Whether it's for including in your CDR or just for general, including it in club social media or in presentations. Having really good videos and photos is really important to really have a visual way to represent. This is all the stuff we've done, and here's, I guess, like some proof or some evidence, of what we've been up to. And so here's just like a very simple example of a spreadsheet entry. And you can see it's not really all that complicated for us. It's usually just like one or two sentences. And then, this kind of gives that high level overview of all the things we do to ensure that, we can really just at the very high level, like emphasize the impact of what we were able to accomplish with each event. Now, kind of to highlight some of the initiatives that BMES at UCLA is really proud of. Really, our organization is broken down to kind of four main branches. We have professional development events, we have mentorship and EDI events, equity, diversity, inclusion, and then we also have community outreach with students and STEM outreach, and as well as technical projects. And so some of the highlights for professional developments, kind of our two flagship events are our biotech career fair on campus, as well as our science vendor expo, which is more targeted for researchers, graduate students, and faculty, and connecting with those vendors. We also do coffee chats and info sessions throughout the years that help students have a chance to connect and network with people across industry and academia. On the front of mentorship and EDI, we do big quarterly banquets with our department, and this is also really just a way to bring community to our department and to the bioengineering community here at UCLA. And we also have this really cool base pair family system named after, adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, and all our members are matched into one of the four families, based on which vibe they, maybe would find themselves fitting into. And then, there are a lot of fun social events throughout the year to also build community at a more local scale. In terms of community outreach, kind of the theme there is we work with Title I elementary, middle, and high schools in the local LA region. And, it's really about, early exposure to STEM and engineering. So we sometimes bring them to campus through Science Day. Sometimes we go to them through our RISE initiatives. And it's really a way to interact with local students and really give them an opportunity to, get some exposure to some of these technical skills that are used in STEM. And finally, our technical projects branch, also very important. We have a variety of wet and dry lab projects engaging over 100 students here at UCLA. And then we also do our flagship event in terms of technical projects, which is our biohack. And so this year we won the Outstanding Societal Impact Award, which is an award that goes to chapters who endeavor to highlight and solve a real-world medical problem within their immediate community. And so there's a lot on this page, but I think at a high level, I just want to kind of show the example of what our technical projects from last year were. So we had 3 design team projects, which were more dry lab and focused on kind of biomedical devices, as well as 2 research team projects, which were in the wet lab. And so, you can see there's some prototypes, there's some videos, they presented them at conferences. And really, I think we've really placed a lot of emphasis on hands-on translational skill building through these technical projects to allow our members, a chance to be in these student-led year-long research projects, where they can really choose a problem they want to address and kind of work on that throughout the year in a student-led team. And I think that's a really great opportunity both for the students to kind of gain those skills and work in a team, but also, hopefully solve some problem that they think the student teams think are really pressing. So now this all distills down to kind of some of the lessons we've learned over the years and some advice for other BMA's chapters as well. So first off, working with our school's bioengineering department has been really valuable for us. We really have learned to kind of supplement what our UCLA's bioengineering department, in terms of having technical projects where, people feel they might want more technical experience or, just working in that partnership is really important. Our department has a lot of resources and we likewise bring a lot of drive and initiative to do these really cool events for the undergraduate community. Having a long-term transition system in place has also been really important for us. We were founded in 2003, and the only reason we've been able to continue to expand and iteratively improve is because we have extensive transition documents. We really make an emphasis of having like a quarter of overlap between the old board and the new board to make sure that they're able to transition effectively into their roles. We also have our committee members, which kind of are in training for a year that hopefully leads to them being in a more stepping up to leadership role. And then another one is setting concrete, actionable, and consistent goals for each year with your executive team and board. And I think one thing that's really been emphasized is year after year, the executive team and our board really has like 1 or 2 main goals that, kind of aligns with each board member's underlying values, and we really focus on that. I think there's always a lot of things that you can try to improve. I think it's better to focus on 1 or 2 things that you really care about and really make an impact to improve that. So like for us this year, a lot of that was focused on like community building across campus. And then kind of that leads to the next point. Building community through social events and mentorships is also very important. I think we started very professional development heavy, but what we've kind of learned to realize is that, people value BMES at UCLA, not only for that, but really for all the fun events that we do and things, that are fun across campus. And then also like, don't be afraid to adapt and change. So we kind of shared what our process for the CDR is and our organization system is, but that's really evolved over the years. And even like this year, we've made some changes to our spreadsheet or like maybe timelines for things. And I think that that's really important to know that, just because something's been done one way doesn't mean it has to always work that way. Always be looking to improve and reflect. And then finally, as some other chapters have also shared, starting your CDRs early is really important. It is a long document. You really want it to really reflect the good work your chapter has done. So really kind of starting early, working on it so that, if you encounter any hiccups or any challenges, then, you can get those resolved early on. So that's what we want to share today with BME at UCLA. We'd love to connect with you if you'd love to follow us on Instagram. Take a look at our website or also send us an email. We'd love to collaborate with any other student chapters that are interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Wesley. Next, we will be watching our final pre-recorded presentation from the University of Southern California, our Outstanding Outreach Award winner for this year. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Hello, my name is Nicholas, and I'm going to be presenting with Dominic here today. And we're presenting on USC's ASBME BMES program, and mainly just our 25-26 progress and our CDR review. So we're going to go over basically how our team works and our structure of our chapter, and then some key initiatives, lessons we learned along the way, and what we believe made our chapter outstanding in outreach. So to go over our leadership, we have a classic executive board structure. We're trying something out new this year, where we have our president as the main leader, and then we now have two vice presidents, Dom and I. Dominic handles the external vice president responsibilities, which is mainly just club outreach and related events that involve outside the scope of the school's projects. And then as the internal vice president, I mainly handle the club's internal activities. We do have some overlap, but this is a new leadership system we're trying this year just to improve the stability and flow of our club, as well as to promote more events and give greater bandwidth to both of us in planning these events.
Some key initiatives we did this year are Project in a Box, which is our K-12 STEM initiative, where we lead bi-weekly lessons at local elementary schools, namely the one across the street, and we visit 3rd and 5th grade classrooms of around 20 or more students, and we make STEM and biomedical engineering more accessible through lessons like candy DNA, egg drop, and other fun activities that we do with the kiddos. We also have a Makeathon Junior competition, which mirrors our undergraduate version, which is Makeathon. It's a high school design challenge meant to expose STEM and biomedical engineering concepts to high schoolers who may be underrepresented within our field, especially within the central LA community and surrounding school district. Here we teach them key engineering and technical skills. We have workshops ranging from computer-aided design, Arduino, to 3D fabrication and printing. And then also we have a clinical health fair to address the risk of diabetes within our community and check for predisposition. And we partner directly with USC's Physician's Assistant School for screening diabetes at a local church. And through all of these initiatives, it helps to broaden our community outreach through both education and awareness.
So we're not a perfect chapter, and I can't imagine anyone is. So an important part of that is learning lessons along the way and being able to build from the experiences that we do have in this field. So one improvement that we've been making in the past couple of years is expanding the diversity of our program. So being able to reach out to more schools, more programs, more locations for our clinical initiatives. And the main purpose of this is to, one, reach broader area of range in our community, but also target populations that may not receive the outreach that is necessary towards the successful growth of biomedical engineers and just solid students and people in the future. So by providing education and support to these people through our outreach programs, we've learned to be able to look where it's not being provided and be able to be that need in the community. And then through these programs, we're also working to inspire future generations. We are all fortunate to be in STEM programs. And part of the reason we are is because we have such a strong support in our past of people coming and telling us about STEM, the education we received in STEM, and not everyone has that. So the ability to go out and inspire kids through high school and even elementary school at such a young age and show them the possibilities that they can have with STEM is really a great aspect that we're working to continue doing. And it's something that our members have reported just learning and evaluating. They're keeping for a good portion of their membership in ASBME. And then finally, to think on your feet. It's not a smooth ride for all these events. Sometimes there's bumps, especially for the bigger events like our Makeathon Junior. There are challenges in organizations and planning. And sometimes the kids think of something different than we do, and it's important to pivot and being able to adapt. And that's been key in success for everything that we've done.
And now onto why we thought we won the Outstanding Outreach Award. So our first pillar was that we built a lot of individual connections, whether it be with the adults and teachers that we worked with to formalize these classroom events at local elementary schools, or the patients that we interacted with at our local health fairs. We built a lot of individual connections within the community. And then our second pillar, leaning on community networks, without the possibility of, or without the support from many community networks like our churches, the surrounding schools that we interact with, the high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, we would not have been able to do all the activities that we did through education and awareness. And then leading within our own school and also with corporate funding sources to help fund our events and make sure that these kids and these patients are facing or receiving the best quality event and care that they should deserve. And then our third pillar is continue to uniquely innovate. And so our events have, especially in the outreach and community outreach areas, have been very new throughout these past few years. Our health fair was started in 2024, along with Makeathon Junior. And so continuing to add on to community outreach, especially in a time where diversity and inclusion and equitable access to both healthcare and engineering education is so important, is something that we're continuing to innovate on with our events and helping to spread with our current initiatives as well.
We'd just like to thank you all for listening to this video. We wish we could have been there live, but we appreciate BMES for giving us the opportunity to share this with additional chapters. And feel free to contact us at these emails if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and now I will pass it over to our outstanding mentoring program awardee, Trudy from The Ohio State University. Yeah, and I would also, as you're getting that pulled up, I would also like to remind any of our attendees, please feel free to drop some questions in the Q&A box. Should we have time, we will answer some of those live.
All right, I'll go ahead and get started. Hi, my name is Dhruti Shah, and I'm the co-president of the BMES chapter at The Ohio State University. So I'll just start off by talking through how we approached our CDR and then our mentorship-focused initiatives that made our chapter successful, and then lastly, hitting on some of the lessons that we've learned throughout or along the way. So we believe that one of the biggest reasons that our CDR and our chapter overall is strong is through delegation, right? Each officer role clearly owns a specific category within our CDR, from professional development and mentoring to outreach, diversity initiatives, and societal impacts. And overall, this does two main things. It distributes responsibility evenly, and it also gives officers ownership over both their programming as well as how it is documented. And then another key part of our process is that the CDR is built continuously throughout the year rather than all at once at the end, which I'm sure other chapters mention, but it's a reoccurring theme. And this allows our presidents to review progress in real time, give feedback, and make improvements while events are still happening. Apart from that, we also try really hard to emphasize officer support, attending each other's major events and making sure that documentation like pictures is always covered. And sort of that shared accountability has been really, really big for us. So moving into a little bit about our chapter now, we believe that our mentorship success primarily comes from combining structured systems with engaging programming. We focus heavily on welcoming new members through fun competitions and consistent touch points. All mentors and mentees within our program are in a GroupMe, where communication and chatting is always encouraged. Specifically, all of our mentors and mentees are split into 4 teams where they compete with one another for points, and each member wins points by completing activities on weekly stamp sheets, which can include things like attending certain events, sharing their favorite part of the week, or even hanging out with their mentor or mentee. And then on the professional development side of things, we've expanded beyond traditional resume reviews to include grad school, med school, and dental school panels, as well as opportunities to connect with campus labs and local companies. Apart from that, our headline events include EHIRS, which is a research symposium, Biohack, a case competition, and Sculpting Your Future, which focuses on women in BME or women in BME. And all of these together act as mentorship hubs, while new initiatives like our clothing drive that we had this year, as well as a design team project, keep members engaged all year round. Throughout all of this, one of the biggest lessons that we've learned is that it never hurts to try something new, right? New ideas can definitely feel intimidating, but many of our most successful programs once started as experiments. We've also learned that just creating that safe, welcoming space matters just as much as the technical programming. Giving members time to talk before and after events while eating free pizza is always fun and includes and sort of increases bonding, and this helps build real connections that extend into classes, labs, and beyond. And then finally, we believe that officer visibility is really, really important, right? When officers actively talk to general body members during our events, it makes the chapter feel far more approachable and feel like a community. Overall, we believe that our chapter sort of stands out because mentorship is woven into every single thing that we do. Our Vice President of Internal Relations focuses on continuous engagement, while our members are supported, recognized, and encouraged to build real relationships with mentees, both in and outside of college. We also extend mentorship beyond our chapter. We work with a local high school's BMES chapter, as well as focus on multi-level mentorship across undergraduate students, grad students, as well as professionals in the industry and research. Ultimately, we focus on building genuine bonds that last beyond individual events. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our chapter's work. And if you'd like to learn more or connect with us, our website and LinkedIn should both, as well as our Instagram, should all three be on there. We're always happy to share ideas and collaborate.
Thank you so much. I will pass it over to our final presenter, Krish. They are from University of Pennsylvania, and won our Commendable Achievement Award for this year. So I will pass it over to you.
Thank you for the introduction, Caitlin. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys see that? Great, yeah. So to introduce myself a bit, I'm Krish. I'm from the University of Pennsylvania BMES chapter. And to introduce our chapter a little bit, Penn BMES is a professional society for bioengineers at Penn. And our mission is to expose students to bioengineering beyond the classroom, particularly career paths outside of academia, and just show them the variety of options that they have, while also serving as a bridge between students, faculty, and the department itself. At our core, we focus on building strong community alongside professional and outreach programming, which really underpins everything you will see in our CDR. So to introduce the people behind Penn BMES, our chapter is led by about 30 active students, leaders across undergraduate years from freshmen to juniors. And that structure really allows for strong mentorship, leadership continuity, and early engagement from underclassmen. And because of our members are in bioengineering majors, we're able to foster a really close-knit, supportive community within such a demanding major. And that culture directly shows up in our engagement and outcomes in the CDR as well. So to kind of discuss how we're set up, our structure, our chapter, our club is comprised of 4 committees. Internal, which plans events inside of Penn, specifically the Penn BE department. And this includes things like wellness events, class socials, meet the PI. A little bit of that. There's some overlap there. Then moving on to the external side, this is more focusing on things that are external to Penn, as the name implies. They plan and organize professional development events mainly. So here we have a lot of different panels, formals, as well as biotech company tours, and just ways for students to get more exposure to this professional field, especially underclassmen who may not have much exposure yet. Then we have M&T, which stands for Marketing and Technology, and they coordinate all of our marketing efforts, our social media, our newsletters, all that stuff. And one of the big things that they do every year is our BE merch design contest, which is always a big hit. Then moving on, we have outreach, and they plan a lot of our community service events within Penn as well as the surrounding Philadelphia community. So a lot of fundraiser there, mentorship events, as well as our last year we had our first high school design challenge, which was also a huge hit, and we'll be really excited, looking forward to that this year as well. So I mean, as you can see, there's a ton of engagement we get across all different types of events. Things like our alumni dinner, which is by far the biggest event of the year for the internal committee. Things to professional development events, and even that's even resonated with awards. Like we recently, this past year, won Engineering Club of the Year at Penn, as well as the Commendable Achievement Award for BMES. So by having these structures and delegating in this way, I think that's really apparent the success we were able to see through that. But what I think really sets us apart is that we're more than just a group of bioengineers. We're like, it's pretty much a friend group, BMES. When we're looking at new applicants, one thing we were always looking for is, like it says, outgoing, fun personalities, people who are looking to collaborate. And I think that's really the biggest thing. Students show up, yeah, like it says, not because they need to, but because they want to. When all your friends are in the club, when your roommates are in the club, it's not work that you're doing. You're having fun while planning these events. And I think that higher energy is also what drives a lot of our success. My job is 20 times easier. I'm not having to force anyone to get work done. They're doing it on their own because they enjoy what they're doing. But yeah, so I think a few highlights of things that we've learned are like everyone's been saying, plan early and communicate often. I don't think that can be emphasized enough. The CDR is always a massive document you have at the end of the year. So the earlier you get a jump on that, have people delegated to be working on it throughout the year, taking photos and update that document as you go, the better it'll be. The other thing that I found is giving students more ownership over their events, delegating to them. When you're just asking them, place an Amazon order, email this person, email that person, it's just pretty tedious work for them. But when they have ownership over it, they really take charge, take lead, they're proactive about it, and they get creative with it as well. And then also when you're having these events, it's important to track everything. Track the numbers, like how Caitlin said. Make sure you have all those details down. Take as many pictures as possible of videos, and as well as reflect on them. Every meeting, we've started doing this new thing this year where we have member of the week. For someone that just planned a great event, we'll highlight them, give them a round of applause, maybe give them a couple cookies, something like that. Just something to, again, increase the energy. And yeah, so if I could leave you with one piece of advice, I think just build as strong of a culture as possible, make it a fun environment, and everything will follow after that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you to Caitlin for putting this together. If you have any questions, you can reach us on our website, email, and follow our Instagram for fun content.
Thank you so much.
I'll pass it back to Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate all of you for taking the time to present today. We have a few minutes to spare, and it looks like we have a question in the inbox, which I believe some of you have already answered directly, but I'll go ahead and say it again. And if you would like to echo your responses again, that would be great. So Roxana said, or asked, should I say, do any of your chapters utilize a point system to incentivize attendance?
Yeah, we do. A lot of our members will receive, like, if they're like in the mentorship program, like the way that our stamp sheets work, is that if you attend certain events and you send a picture of yourself at that event, you win you win a point for your team. And so we've seen like mentors and mentees show up together for like double points for their team.
We've also used points at the University of Texas. Oh, am I coming through? Okay. We also use points at the University of Texas San Antonio as our main method of keeping track of our roster. So at each event, there's a certain level of points that you gain. So for events that we want higher attendance, we'll offer more points. So for example, our mentorship program, they get extra points for participating in that over maybe attending a general meeting. For industry tours, we also offer 2 points instead of 1 point. And we also keep track of points by semester. So that way, in order for people to reach a certain active member status, they will come out throughout the whole year rather than coming in at the beginning of the year and then maybe not being as active once it comes to spring. So we usually track points by semester as well and offer certain benefits and rewards at the end of the year.
So I think one question that I think even could be useful as well would be, how does your chapter select its executive board, and what strategies have you found are effective for ensuring a fair, transparent, and sustainable leadership transition?
I can take a shot at this since we're actually in the midst of our executive board transition. But yeah, like the process is pretty straightforward. It starts with a written application, like with any board application. And then afterwards, there's an interview with the outgoing executive board, and then there's also like an election component. And so kind of all of these together, I think the breakdown is like 50% election, and then the other 50% of the vote is like kind of related to the interview and the interviews as well as the written application. But really, I think what like we're looking for is we're really looking for like, that vision. Like we want to make sure people have really like thought a lot about BMES. They have like a proven track record of like commitment to BMES and like trying to improve it. Because I think like ultimately, like when you're like trying to like run the organization, like for me at least speaking personally, like learning to like not be very hands-on, actually be doing all the tasks, but actually like setting the vision and thinking about like what are the concrete actionable goals we want to like work towards this year. Like that's kind of been a big goal. And then I guess another one that like we only started to appreciate recently, like is kind of making sure that your executive board like kind of is aligned in that vision. Like again, there are a lot of things that you can work to improve, and I think like if every single person has like very like varying underlying goals, like that can work. But I think having a team where everyone like has like some core values that are shared in terms of what they want to improve for your student chapter has allowed us to really like push that forward a lot more and like make a lot more progress. So I think those are kind of the things that like we're looking for, really the ability to like set a vision and also like take concrete actions towards accomplishing them. And then I guess like another thing is I don't know about the other chapters, but like we do our executive board election so early because like kind of with that goal in mind of making sure like kind of halfway through our school year we're beginning to transition over. Like they have basically half a year to kind of get onboarded, and like we kind of really make sure we have this extended transition period to make sure that we have that like effective passing on of knowledge generation after generation.
Awesome. Thank you. It looks like we probably have time for one more question. So whoever wants to take it, I want to ask, how do you get people to come to your meetings?
I can give this a shot because this is the big thing for any club event. We want to make sure that we're actually reaching the people we intend to serve. And so, as mentioned earlier, like point systems and incentives, that's something we use at BMES at UCI, which is really helpful for keeping engagement long term in our mentorship families and everything like that. Alongside that, just whenever you're planning an event, really ask the question like, if you were a general member, would you want to come to this event? What are you getting from it? And is that also being clearly communicated in all your different advertisements? Like, oh, are you gaining CAD skills? Are you gaining the opportunity to network with these industry professionals? Are you also able to just like gain friends? The social component and community is also very important. So making sure that in your advertisements, you're thinking about your mission, you're thinking about a larger vision, and also from step one, making sure that each event is a valuable use of your members' time will get people to show up naturally.
Thank you so much. And thank you once again to all of our speakers, virtual and live. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to get ready for this webinar. So this concludes our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. A recording of today's session will be emailed to all registrants, and it will also be posted in BMES Hub, where you're invited to continue the conversation with the presenters and ask post-event questions in the video thread. All relevant links will be shared once the recording is available. Thanks again, and we hope to see you at future BMES events.